gets colder. My eyes go thin as I get older. Piece in pieces, bloody and bruised. I feel so helpless and confused. 'Cause I hear screaming on the left, yelling on the right. I'm sitting in the middle trying to live my life. 'Cause I can't stop the war, the shelter homeless.
Good afternoon. This is Evelyn Pringle. Welcome to Trish and Evie's Focus on the Facts. My co-host is Patricia Negron, and I want to remind our listeners that Trish does a live broadcast every day at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the VK platform, and she is now back on the Facebook platform as well. So we'll have Trish be more specific about the times of her broadcast today. People should tune in every day to get the latest up-to-date news from Trish. Today we are going to celebrate the takedown of the elite pedophiles like Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and many others, and we will continue to cover the dismantling of the global child sex trafficking networks with the latest news in the scandal of Epstein and all the elite pedophiles who have been involved with him and his child sex trafficking rings. The hottest topic in the Epstein scandal today is still focused on Prince Andrew. Since his interview by the BBC, the prince was sacked by the Queen and was stripped of his royal duties last Wednesday. His staff was kicked out of Buckingham Palace, and the Queen also called off the 60th birthday party for the prince on February 19th. Epstein victim Virginia Roberts Guthrie claims that she was forced to have sex with the prince on 3 occasions, once in London at Ghislaine Maxwell's mansion, in New York at Epstein's mansion, and during an orgy with 7 or 8 underage girls on Epstein's private orgy island between 1999 and 2002, when she was underage. During the interview, Prince Andrew denied every allegation made by Virginia and claimed he never met her or had sex with her. Today, the Sun is reporting that Prince Andrew is not above the law, and he has no diplomatic or sovereign immunity over the Epstein scandal. It is understood that Andrew is not eligible for sovereign immunity, as only the Queen is entitled to that category, Sun reports. The Daily Mail is now reporting that a new poll shows that more than half of the British public want Prince Andrew banned from public events attended by the whole royal family, including Trooping the Colour and Remembrance Sunday. Also, the Daily Mail has reported that French police have renewed their appeal for witnesses to child sex crimes at Epstein's Paris mansion to come forward in the wake of Prince Andrew's interview. Children as young as 12 have visited the mansion, and the concierge at the mansion claims Prince Andrew was a regular guest. Epstein is reported to have been on 11 trips to Paris in the year before he was found dead in his jail cell. In addition to Prince Andrew, some of the other famous people who Virginia claims Epstein forced her to have sex with include his attorney, Alan Dershowitz, former Senator and Disney Chairman George Mitchell, MIT professor Marvin Minsky, Highbridge Capital co-founder Glenn Dubin, former New Mexico governor and presidential candidate Bill Richardson, Hyatt's hotel magnate Tom Pritzker, and model agent Luc Brunel. The Mail on Sunday has reported that U.S. authorities have begun sharing information with France's judicial police, who will examine claims that 3 12-year-old girls were abused after being flown from France to the U.S. as a birthday present for Epstein by Brunel. Flight logs from the Epstein's private jet show that Brunel flew on the so-called Lolita Express more than 20 times between 1998 and 2005. Epstein attorney Alan Dershowitz is still denying that he was involved in Epstein's child sex trafficking network. He's filing lawsuits left and right, including against the victims' attorneys. In addition to Virginia Roberts, the second woman has also said Epstein directed her to have sex with her. Sarah Ransom's allegations against Dershowitz included in a public transcript in a Manhattan federal court. Ransom has sued Epstein and Maxwell, saying they trafficked her for sex from 2006 to 2007. Earlier this month, more victims of Epstein sued his estate. Sisters Marie and Annie Farmer filed separate lawsuits against the lawyers representing Epstein's estate. According to the lawsuit, Epstein and Maxwell lured Maria Farmer into the trafficking operation in 1995 by exploiting her ambition as a graduate student at the New York Academy of Art. Among her duties was keeping tabs on who came and went from Epstein's Upper East Side mansion in New York. Among the guests that came to the mansion, Maria observed Dershowitz on a number of occasions and observed that he would go upstairs at the same time that the young girls in school uniforms were up there. In early October, Jennifer Alvarez said Epstein began grooming her for sex when she was 14 and later raped her, and she expanded her lawsuit against Epstein's estate. Her amended complaint accused 4 women by name who once worked for Epstein of sexual misconduct and added more than 20 corporate defendants associated with Epstein. The 4 women include Epstein's procurer and child rapist, Ghislaine Maxwell, Leslie Groff, former secretary, Kimberly Espinoza, a former executive assistant, and Rosalind Fontanella, a former maid who died in October 2016. The Sun is also reporting that Prince Andrew invited Maxwell to Buckingham Palace in June, only 2 weeks after the FBI launched a new investigation. The Daily Mail is currently reporting that Prince Andrew's friend Maxwell is preparing to speak to the FBI about their connection to pedophile Epstein. And finally, we have the report that child sex trafficking investigators from the FBI's New York field office have conducted an interview with a former child victim who was providing chilling details about being raped by Bill Clinton on a yacht in New England when the victim was 8, and he was pimped out at private parties attended by other D.C. elites. He gave chilling details of sexual assault and satanic rituals on that yacht. The interview was conducted by the FBI's task force that was established to investigate sex trafficking claims linked to Epstein and his associates. There is actually video out now of the interview of the victim, telling the horrifying stories of the elite politicians raping and sodomizing children and their satanic rituals. Jenny Moore, our top researcher and reporter on the Global Child Sex Trafficking Network, got this interview, and she was found dead in her motel in 2 weeks after she turned the interview into the FBI in August 2018. Everyone who wants to know the truth about these evil satanic pedophiles should watch his video. So I'll bring Trish on now to discuss the important developments of these child sex trafficking cases and to celebrate the takedown of these global elite pedophiles. Welcome to the show, Trish.
Hi there, Evelyn. A lot happening,
Lots of news. Lots of news.
Yeah, and some positive direction. I mean, really, the fact that the pressure was so intense on Andrew to force that move by his family says a lot about the willpower of the people who refused to let this story die with, you know, Jeffrey Epstein's supposed suicide. So, you know, it's very positive. And I don't know about you, but it seems like the community that supports these victims and their desire and right to have their story heard and responded to seems almost universal, even if the people don't necessarily grasp or believe that this network is as large as you and I know it is.
Yeah.
They recognize the absolute failure of all these systems. I mean, you look at even this whole thing with Amy Robach at ABC News. I mean, she confirmed everything that Virginia Giuffre alleged. She said herself they had all the corroborating information. The FBI has had all this corroborating information all along, too. And they've done nothing with it. And so, yet we have another person independently confirming and corroborating all these allegations about hundreds of wealthy and powerful people. So it's, you know, it's undeniable at this point. And my greatest hope is that having seen the forced response by Andrew's family to his exposure to Jeffrey Epstein really gives me some hope that we can achieve something with revelations about, you know, his mother and brother and father's very close, decades-long personal relationship with serial child predator Jimmy Savile. That is, you know, that's the bigger question that we need to get to. But this whole situation with Andrew is a really great first step because, it confirms everything we've been saying. And so now to go next to, okay, what about, his mom and the rest of his family? There's a real solid basis from which to pursue that. So, and now with the Bill Clinton victim, but, the FBI has had that for over a year now and done nothing. Nothing.
Right.
They have made it obvious that they not only have no intention of charging anybody who is, ultimately responsible for all of this, but they have very clearly set a pattern of covering it up.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And that's become obvious, too.
I'm babysitting. So if I have to take a second off, I just put him for his nap.
Okay.
But he's fine. I just keep in there. This is odd for me. He's just going to be 3 years old. He's a little cutie. But anyhow, this Shantae Davis now, she came out with a report, and she's saying that Epstein boasted of his friendship with Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson before he raped her on his private island. But she came out I think it was a couple of years ago. And back then she wasn't telling the truth about flying on the Lolita Express. But at that time, she told, I think she was on that trip that went to Africa. And when they got there, she said, in that video a couple of years ago, she said that Bill Clinton took her shopping for to get a birthday present for Chelsea when they were on that trip, and now she's out here saying about admitting that she was raped and trafficked by Epstein. But there's nothing in the story about Bill Clinton. I want to know more about that story, what really went on with him. Right.
And that
people are staying away from him.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, that's the one person that no matter who comes out with information about him, they wind up dead. I mean, there's really no two ways about that. And so, again, the idea that, now with Andrew and the scandal that is building around him, did you see this woman? She's the official biographer who defended him and said that, soliciting a minor is not the same thing as pedophilia, which is like, what the hell are you talking about? She was immediately dropped from a tree lighting ceremony, which she was supposed to lead. And now the pressure is so high that there are discussions about Ghislaine Maxwell coming forward out of hiding to make a statement. I mean, that's how afraid they are. They may throw her under the bus now, too, in order to deflect.
Well, and they say she's going to come out. I'll believe it when I see it. And the thing is, and then they came out, too, the story that Prince Andrew had Maxwell to the Buckingham Palace in June.
Right, in June. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And 2 weeks after the investigation started, was announced.
Well, restarted. That's the other thing. It's not like it was brand new, Yeah. These were revelations that were known for a decade now. So
I know, these stories come out like this is new news, and like you and I say, yeah, we've known this stuff for a couple of years already. But the other thing is now the mainstream media is covering it. They can't get away from it now.
Yep. And that's because of people like us, Evelyn, that we would not be hearing a word about this otherwise. But the community has just swelled enormously in the last, 6 months or so as these allegations are coming forward, and all these, truthers are producing content based on primary source data, which includes sworn testimony, corroborating evidence such as flight logs and phone messages and employee statements. Now we have John Mark Dugan, the former Palm Beach police officer who was given all of those files from the 2008 investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, he confirmed that, in fact, there are videos of this behavior that the police would have had all along. So this was part of the investigation that we now have confirmation that the FBI, since 2008, had that video on top of everything else. These are confirmed, crimes that cannot be disputed at this point. So, and these are all
like
unrelated.
You said, anybody that turns in Bill Clinton, like you said, ends up dead. I mean, Jenny turned in that video just 2 weeks before she was found dead in her hotel room.
Well, Joe Recarey was the lead investigator on the Epstein case in Palm Beach in 2008. He was a perfectly healthy guy. He knew he was being pressured. He had been threatened. His family had been threatened. And that's why he gave all these files to John Mark Dugan, who was he was managing a website for whistleblowers. Well, it was also John Mark Dugan who received that thumb drive from Seth Rich. And the FBI, when they raided John Mark Dugan's home in 2017 over the Epstein information, they found that he also had the DC leaks. And when Dugan fled shortly after he was raided by the FBI, knowing that his days were numbered, he brought all of it with him to Russia, where he's been awarded political asylum, and he published the DC leaks from Russia. And these DC leaks, are the ones that got Seth Rich killed himself. This was, again, the Clintons that were, and then Joe Recarey in 2018, last year, and John Mark Dugan and he were friends. So it wasn't like this anonymous exchange of information. They were friends and colleagues. And John Mark Dugan said that Joe Recarey was a very fit and healthy, like one of the healthiest guys he knew at 50 years old or so, and then just dropped dead after a brief illness in 2018. So yet another person.
Right. And he was only 50 years old, eh?
Right.
No, it's Maria Farmer is saying that she's talking about that there's cameras everywhere, recording everybody. She said that she saw a camera room, and their cameras said toilet, bed, toilet, bed. She said, it's like, I'm never going to use the restroom here again. I'm never going to sleep here. And she said that he had men monitoring these videos.
Well, that again is confirmed by John Mark Dugan and this other journalist who viewed a random sample of these videos given to him by the lead investigator of exactly that. It was security camera footage that showed sexual encounters between adult men, older adult men, and very, very young girls. So that is confirmed that, in fact, these cameras were recording these activities, and we also know that he was running a human compromise operation, a sexual blackmail operation. Again, this is not, a rare occurrence. The NXIVM sex cult in court documents is characterized as a, sexual blackmail operation and named Chuck Schumer as one of the targets, as well as 5 federal judges. This kind of activity is very well documented. And like I said, all of these allegations that these young women these women have made about their abuse and trafficking as children have been fully corroborated.
Yeah. Well, that video that I assume Thomas Paine, that's really Michael Moore, not the Michael Moore that puts out movies, Michael Moore that runs the Paine website or whatever, newsletter or whatever. You know, in that video, he's blocking out names again in that video. And that's you know, George Webb listened to this guy too tell about all this. And a while back, he brought this up that when did they start leaving out names in the videos like Chuck Schumer and Anthony Weiner and stuff? And those must be the names that Mike Morris blocked out of that video. Because I was listening to it, and there's certain names that are blocked out. Those must be the ones. And back then, George was saying, when did they remove those names from that video? So why are they protecting? Why is Kane protecting Schumer and Weiner now?
Wow. Yeah. Well, again, though, Evelyn, we know what happens to people who expose that. When you get that close to the Clintons, you wind up dead.
Yeah, but he's saying about he's letting the guy tell about him being sodomized by Bill Clinton and everything. Why is he blocking out Schumer and Weiner and the other pedophiles that are participating in this? Yeah. No, I hear you. It's infuriating. I mean, his duty is to tell the truth and to tell the story and not cover for these people. That kind of thing really infuriates me too. Right. Now this Dershowitz, he's really a piece of work, isn't he? How do you? Yeah. He got that law firm thrown out of the case in his lawsuit. You know, and they initially wanted to get that lawsuit dismissed, but now the judge refused to dismiss it and said that Virginia Guffey's lawsuit can go forward. But he wanted them lawyers off the case, so he played his shenanigans in the courthouse and got them kicked off the case. He's such a scumbag. And then there was a secret filing I saw recently to seal the records or something like that. But they're anonymous filings, of course. They're still trying to keep this under wraps. You know, and Alan Dershowitz himself said publicly that he personally was aware of hundreds of wealthy and powerful men who were getting quote-unquote massages at Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, that just is ludicrous. That, you know, what the fuck are hundreds of wealthy and powerful men doing going to this guy's house for that? If I were a billionaire, I'd have someone come to my house. You know? Well, I'm telling you, I think when Dershowitz made those comments in that interview, that was pure blackmail. That was pure blackmail. This was like 6 months ago or something like that. That was to tell everybody else, listen, if I go down, you're all going down with me. Yep. By making that statement hundreds. Right about that. Because the victims say massage is code word for sex. Right, right. And he would know that. And again, how many people have corroborated that he would go in the house upstairs all the time when there were minor girls in the residence? Girls in school uniforms. Yes. This has been confirmed not only by the victims, by multiple victims independently of one another, but also employees, contractors. It's corroborated by, you know, the phone messages and all this other stuff. So it's indisputable. And he made a big mistake by, you know, what he did by confirming that, in fact, it was going on. Right. Well, you know, and other people, too, are standing up, you know, against these pedophiles. You know, we reported last week that let me see up here, that the Museum of Modern Art benefit was greeted by an ad calling for the museum to sever its ties to two wealthy donors, Leon Black and Glenn Dubin, who have been linked to Epstein. The Museum of Art should kick Leon Black and Glenn Dubin off its board immediately, said the ad. You know, so people are rising up all over the world, you know. And, Prince Andrew got dropped, remember? Yeah. Pardon? He got dropped immediately. Prince Andrew got dropped from, all of his sponsorships, too, almost right away. So he's become, this is, toxic. And anyone who tries to defend it is going down, that biographer herself, too. So it's backfiring massively. I do hope Ghislaine does come forward, because that will be yet another opportunity for us to hammer away at this.
And, they only expose themselves further now because we're able to handle this. When they tell a lie, we can immediately respond with the evidence. It's a failing effort on their part.
Oh, no kidding. And then I guess out at that Zorro Ranch, the pictures are all coming out, and they said that there's pictures. They got a picture. Epstein had a picture out there of Bill Clinton, all surrounded by topless underage girls.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So,
incredible.
It's all out there in the open. I mean, these people always say that, they never seen any underage girls and all this stuff at these.
Right.
There's pictures of underage girls naked and half naked on all the walls in all of his mansions. Epstein's. Yep. There is no way in hell that every time one of these people come over that he went around and had somebody take down all these pictures. Those pictures are up there for everybody to see.
Right. Well, Andrew himself described the New York residents as being sort of like a train who were constantly coming and going. And in the Daily Mail, they actually evaluated footage from that date, those dates when he made the last visit to Epstein's house. They counted the people, they identified who they could, and they contacted whomever they could. And there were 6 or 7 people coming and going constantly over these brief periods of time. So, again, that you wouldn't be able to avoid. They would have to be gone all the time, these pictures or whatever. Like, if they were out at all these people who are coming and going are seeing them. Give me a break. He confirms that.
Yeah,
so.
Right. And, so then I said, I had wrote down that Sean Atwood has put up several videos on this whole, these escapades, and he said that more than 20 companies and charities have distanced themselves from the prince and his initiatives. And he said, and the prince's alibis don't hold up. He said, if he went to a pizza parlor in the afternoon, he could have still been at the Tramps nightclub in the evening with Virginia, which is so true,
right.
And this bit about him telling everybody that he went to Epstein's in 2010 because he wanted to tell them that they weren't going to be friends no more. So, the truth comes out now that no, he went there to find out if Epstein had any films or pictures of him and everything. That's what he really went to find out, and Epstein guaranteed him that he didn't. Well, yeah, right. We know that.
Right.
Any day we're probably going to see some videos or pictures come out of the prince doing who knows
what.
Like
I said, John Mark Dugan has all of it.
Yeah.
John Mark Dugan has all of that video.
Look at it because we'll be busted if we look at these videos.
Right.
You and child porn.
Yeah. Well, he's now, thankfully, he's under asylum, and he has been protected by the Russian government, which apparently has prevented Interpol from seizing John Mark Dugan on 3 different occasions. So,
really?
Yes.
Great.
According to John Mark Dugan, that's what they told him, is that there have been 3 attempts by Interpol to try and get their hands on him.
Really? By Interpol? Now, why would Interpol want to do this?
Well, because they, again, just like the UN and the EU and all these, the Organization for American States, they're all arms of the same machine. They're there to protect these wealthy and powerful people.
Man, what we're fighting against, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it really is that deadly. And the good news is, though, it is child porn, and, but the bottom line is these are heinous, ongoing crimes. This is not a historical matter. It is a continuing issue. And, if it takes, obviously our law enforcement isn't going to do anything about it here in the United States. So whatever we have to do in order to make these people accountable is what we have to do. Screw the quote-unquote law, because obviously it doesn't apply to certain people. And if it doesn't apply to them, then it shouldn't apply to us either. And we have every right to pursue these people until we get justice for these kids. I mean, I just think what someone like Virginia has been through in pursuing this, and how Dershowitz and all these, bastards are out there smearing her after the abuse she endured, knowing that so many hundreds, thousands of other children are being abused the same way. I mean, and still not one of these people, Amy Roback, Andrew, Dershowitz, none of them have expressed remorse for those kids. Not one. It's disgusting.
No. Calling them sleazy and prostitutes and liars. Yes. So disgusting. I know. And we talked about that before, too, that Amy Roseback, that she didn't, all she was worried about is she didn't get that scoop. She didn't give a shit that those girls were still being abused all over the world by these perverts.
Well, and the other thing, Evelyn, is, again, they were aware of crimes that were committed. They have a duty to report them, to the police. Like, you had all this evidence. Again, Amy Roback herself said, we had everything. We had receipts. We had everything. Obviously, all the evidence is there. There's
she even pointed out she had it on Clinton, too.
Yes, Alan Dershowitz. She named Alan Dershowitz. I mean, and again, she says she had it all. What does that mean? If she had it all, why didn't the FBI?
They did.
Exactly. And they've done zero with it. Yeah. And everybody's asking the question, why the hell hasn't Ghislaine or Jean-Luc Brunel or any of these other people who are, again, the evidence is overwhelming. It's not like there's a lack of it at this point.
No.
So, and those are the questions. Not how did Jeffrey Epstein die, or is he dead? The question is, why the hell aren't these other people in jail?
Absolutely. We talked about this before. I said, what was it a while back I was telling you about? There was a school teacher, I think it was in Wisconsin, that had sex with a 13-year-old kid or something like that. She got sent to jail for, over 10 years for one child. And I'm saying, this is horrible that she did this, But then you compare it to these bastards that they let run loose.
Right. Protected. Not just, it's they're actively protected. And that's the other thing, is not only, that's the even bigger question. It's not only, why hasn't Ghislaine Maxwell been arrested, but, the reality that not only is our quote-unquote law enforcement protecting these guys, but our quote-unquote law enforcement is part of the damn trafficking syndicate. They actively use children, as Jeffrey Epstein does themselves.
Exactly.
And many of these children die as a result.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about these girls that are standing up, they're now women and everything, and I give them so much credit, man, for standing up to all this. But so many of them are dead because, they go into abusing drugs and all this kind of stuff after this happens to them, How many of those victims are already dead? A source told the Sun that Ghislaine is preparing to speak, whether by talking to the FBI or giving a statement to the media, because she has to defend herself. She has no option. She will have to address the guilt by association. It ain't guilt by association.
Yeah.
She's been named as raping these girls. I don't know in how many lawsuits. She's not just a procurer. She's a child rapist.
Yep.
Filthy, dirty pedophile. And people always look, they don't consider women pedophiles. Well, I sure do.
If you're strapping on a dildo and using it in a sexual way on a child, that's rape.
Yes, it is. I mean, she participate in these orgies and do the same thing to these girls.
Yeah.
And she's going to come out of hiding. Oh, really? Well, the minute she comes out of hiding, she needs to have the cuffs slapped on her immediately.
Yes. What the hell is she hiding from?
Yeah.
Exactly. If she's not guilty of anything, why is she hiding?
Guilt by association. It is not guilt by association.
I know. It's pathetic. Yeah.
I mean, she is really at the top of this whole mess.
Yes.
She's the one that's supposed to be introduced Andrew to Epstein and everything.
Yep.
When you go back and you look at all the reports, it's like she's the one that introduces all these people.
Sarah Ferguson introduced Ghislaine to Andrew, and then, she wound up, the ironies here are endless because, as you have pointed out, Andrew's mother invited Ghislaine and Epstein to several events at their, residences. So these are official events. You mean to tell me they didn't vet these guys before letting them into the royal residence? Give me a break. And you have to be really frickin' incompetent to not have come across all that information that was, swirling around all over the place. If that's your job, if you're supposed to be protecting the reputation of the royal household, they did a really shitty job of it then.
Sure. Well, and that Shantae Davis says that Epstein bragged so much about his friendship with Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, and even bragged about how he paid off some of Sarah Ferguson's debts and everything to her. I mean, he must have a big mouth, man. He tells these young girls this stuff,
Yeah.
Just saying how close he is to them.
Well, and I mean, the impunity, they clearly had complete and total impunity to do all of this.
Yeah, right out in the open. I mean, how blatant is that? To put up a picture of Bill Clinton with a bunch of underage topless girls
surrounded,
in your main house at the door. How gutsy is that?
Yeah.
And, Virginia said that she never was trafficked to Bill Clinton, but she did say that down at the island that she did see him with two young girls. Not her.
Oh, yeah.
But two other young girls. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So
I believe it. I mean, Virginia Guthrie has proven herself entirely credible. So I don't doubt anything she says about what happened.
And there's this other girl, now these names are so, Joanna Solberg. She also says that Andrew groped her breast at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion.
Yeah. I can't even imagine how long the list is. People are coming out of the woodwork,
man. Telling about all the shit that they pulled over the years. And I think all the other girls that have come out, have given a lot of other girls, courage to come out.
Right.
And then they see him on that interview lying, that, no, they're coming out now. They're like,
well, the other thing too, and the other thing too is that there's now a community of people who actively support these women when they come forward and tell their stories and make sure, when they're smeared or defamed or something, they, counter that, they actively work to counter that. And it's very, very important that these women feel like they're supported when they come forward with this stuff because, you consider what they're up against, and how many lives that machine has destroyed, in its history of people who are like these women are trying to hold the criminals accountable. So, I mean, the very least we can do is act on their behalf as advocates in telling their stories and defending them against, unjust abuse. I mean, it's the same thing that they do with like Julian Assange. He's been completely smeared. And then Sweden dropped the entire basis for him seeking asylum. It has been gutted by the Swedish government dropping this case yet again against him, and yet he's still sitting in prison and dying.
Yeah. When you think about this, think how awful this is. Right. Even if that was true, look at what they're doing to Julian. Even if that was true, look at what they're doing to him over these supposed rape charges, which now the women have said it didn't happen. This is bullshit all along, but look what they've done to him. And now these other ones running free, they've been raping these underage girls and boys all over the world. And they're running free.
That's a great point, Evelyn. That's a great point.
I mean, right. Like I said, even if that was true that he did rape those women, look what they've done to him.
Right.
And now it's come out that it ain't true. We knew that from the start it wasn't true. But look what they've done to him. They're killing him.
Why isn't Ghislaine Maxwell and Luc Brunel and Alan Dershowitz and all these other guys, that putz Andrew, why aren't they rotting and dying of torture in prison for what they've done?
Exactly. And now the Queen even kicked out Prince Andrew's business out of Buckingham Palace. I'm telling you, there's more coming out, and they know it. That's the Prince Andrew was the Queen's favorite son. She would not be doing this unless there was something horrible coming out, and she knows it.
Well, the other thing, too, though, Evelyn, is that, this also sort of lays the groundwork so that as we push forward on exposing her relationship and close, Jimmy Savile had the run of their properties. He could go in, do whatever he wanted. He could wander wherever he wanted. This is a guy who had total and complete freedom in their homes. You mean to tell me that somebody with that kind of privilege, they don't know his real background? He's allowed to wander around the royal residences? Are you kidding me? And so with her kicking Andrew out, when she gets exposed, that will be the obvious thing to do with her and the rest of them. Just throw them out.
That's what we're going to have to do.
Yep. The homeless should be allowed to live. They are professional grifters. They are useless human waste, and they deserve nothing that they have. They have earned nothing that they have. It is all stolen. And these reputations that they have are complete veneers. They are monsters underneath. And when I was talking about these children also dying, it's not just because of, their drug abuse or whatever, the suicidal state of mind as a result of the abuse. Andrew's family has been documented to murder these children. It goes way beyond just the sex trafficking. And, this is something that I don't, know if the public would be able to digest. But that's where we have to get with this because, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of people who have come forward to blow the whistle on that family and their direct participation in child hunting parties and ritual sacrifice of children.
Yeah, tell about these hunting parties, what they are.
Well, Fiona Barnett and a couple of others I've heard describe them. These children, 5, 6, 7 years old, some older, they're drugged, brought in cages, and dropped in these areas. I think it was the Vienna, Austria, or somewhere in Austria is where this one property was where they did this. And they would literally leave these kids naked and set them out and start chasing them and hunt them down and either rape them or shoot them or, torture them. I mean, it's just ghastly. This is what their idea of entertainment is.
Yes. This is what their idea of entertainment is.
Chasing, killing, raping, terrorizing children. That's what these people
Sure.
do for fun.
Yep. I've had Fiona Barnett on my show, and I posted her video on Focus on the Facts interview today on Facebook. But yeah, she tells all about that, these hunting parties. And with her, she was they were, I don't know, I don't understand how these satanic people operate, but they were going to make Fiona, I don't know, some kind of princess or something or other. So they would have her go out with these kids, but they would actually hunt her down and kill her. But she said that it was part of her part was to keep these kids safe, to hide them so that they wouldn't find them, the kids. Imagine this, a little girl having to do this.
No, I can't.
And he's the one that says, that she was trafficked out to that place in California where they have the new
Bilderberg.
No. It's in the forest out there. They have that.
Yeah.
They have those once a year. They stay for 2 weeks. All the politicians and all the rich elite pedophiles. Yeah. And she was trafficked out there. Out there, she was trafficked to Billy Graham. That he had a little hut, like it was all decorated up, and she was decorated up as a candy girl. Had balloons and everything, and she had been trafficked to Richard Nixon, and Richard Nixon had told Billy Graham that she would be a good one for him to have. And then she says at Disneyland they have pedophile parties at night there. She was trafficked there, and she was raped by Ted Turner there at a Disneyland pedophile party at night. I mean, this has been going on. I mean, and this is Fiona. This is years ago now. This is how long this stuff has been going on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she too has come out, and stayed out and keeps opening her mouth.
There are way too many people who tell this exact same kind of story independently of one another. Right. Then we have Ted Gunderson, former FBI bureau chief, who has confirmed all of this. John Kiriakou has confirmed it from the CIA angle.
Right.
All this has been confirmed over and over again by people with direct knowledge of it and independently of one another. So it is indisputable. And these people, it's the best part is that, somebody like Fiona, who has been through some of the worst abuse that these children suffer, the really good news is that we are able to back her statements up very easily now with the content that's available, so that, again, when these whistleblowers and survivors speak, they have the support they need so that they don't get scared into silence again. So,
I always wonder, about these little girls, or little boys, what happens to them when they're raped by these grown men and everything. Well, according to Fiona, everybody around them knows this is going on. When she was trafficked to Richard Nixon, she said that she was slashed open so bad and stuff after he raped her, that there was a nurse that came and took her aside and sewed her up down there.
Yep.
Richard
They have
Nixon
their own staff, medical staff.
They all know about this. They all know what's going on. And she was raped by Nixon on an airplane. And so they delivered her to that airplane for him. She went back there and he raped her and everything. And then afterwards, they had to have somebody come and stitch her up after he raped her. And this is always when I get to the point when we get down to, that they're raping infants and toddlers. How can this happen, Trish? How can that even happen? I mean, I try to picture this, and it's like I can't understand how this could even happen. How can you rape a toddler or an infant?
Right. I know.
This is so sick, and we have got to end this once and for all. And we're gonna, this global army we're not letting this get away this time.
Yeah, it's only getting bigger. It is really obvious, the groundswell around this. And the other thing too is when people are posting about it or talking, debating, whatever, they speak from a place of confidence now. You're not marginal. None of us are marginalized the way we used to be because this community is so solid and big now. And you don't have to doubt yourself anymore, because if you don't have the piece of content handy to back up your point, somebody else will come drop it in. They'll see it and they'll fill the void. So it's a really rich and it's an environment that is really rich with possibility that we can see some sort of justice for these people and put a really big dent in these practices. I don't hold out hope that we'll get rid of it altogether, but, minimizing the damage is an absolute must. And there's a lot of damage that we can prevent by pressing forward.
Yeah, well, we're going to press forward because we ain't stopping. I'm not stopping. The last thing I do on this earth is end in these child sex trafficking rat lines.
God, just the idea of knowing about it. You can't, you have to be a horrible person and incredibly selfish to know about something like this and then not being willing to speak up about these poor kids because it might embarrass you. It's just like, I don't fucking care about being embarrassed. I care that these children are being, heinously abused.
Oh, my
God. These are children.
Yes.
And being an adult doesn't make you responsible for protecting them. What the hell are we here for?
Exactly. If we can't protect our children, what can we protect?
Yeah.
That this is just so out of whack. And what got me started on this, but probably almost 6 years ago now, was listening to those Hampstead kids tell about being abused over there in the UK. Oh, my God. And, I was a counselor and a family counselor for 13 years. So, I know about child development and everything. And I was listening to them children, and both of them were telling the truth. Both of them. I have
that little
counseled child victims, and everything.
Yeah.
And I know and they were telling the truth. And that little boy, there is no way in hell that he could have came out with this stuff that he was saying happened to him and his sister and made that up. There is no way in hell. And and they told about this was going on at their schools, and their dad was running it, and they were doing these satanic rituals at the schools. They were killing babies in the school and drinking the blood and making them eat the babies and everything else.
Yep.
The father would help make them children kill the babies. He'd put the knife on their throat, and then he'd push their hands down to chop the baby's head off. And then they would boil these babies, and they would drain the blood out of the baby, and they would drink it, and then they would pass around and make them eat parts of his dead babies. And
they would have
were also
orgies,
telling about how the different teachers and everything, and there was nuns and priests and everything else involved. And these teachers would put on dildos and screw these little kids with these dildos. And they told how they had warts and tattoos and stuff by their private parts and all this kind of stuff. And there was no way in hell that they couldn't have proved this was true just by going to these schools and forcing them teachers and nuns and everything to let them look at these warts and tattoos and stuff on their private parts. But no,
the children
they took those children and they gave it back to the pervert dad.
The children themselves were examined, and their medical examination showed that they were sexually assaulted. And like you said, that little boy described an adult woman's, private parts with way too much accuracy. Like no child would have that degree of knowledge about a woman's private parts that he described.
No adult would have that knowledge. The kind of things he described about these people. And they said that they were going to McDonald's and everything else and doing stuff there. This is how sick this whole... And they're all connected. These hamsters...
Well, the other thing...
Go ahead.
Well, more recently, remember the Finders documents were unsealed. And Jamie Deluxe did a great video on that. remember the McMartin preschool issue, Evelyn, where these children they had venereal disease, they had all kinds of obvious signs that they were being sexually abused, and it was completely covered up. Well, incredibly, in these finders files, the FBI and police investigation files specifically refer to the McMartin preschool, and in these files are contained maps of the underground facilities that these children described and were later refuted by officials. The officials denied the existence altogether of these facilities described by the children, and yet maps of them are contained in the FBI's files on the finders. Wow. Isn't that interesting?
Wow. Yeah. Well, like you said, another week, we are fighting the government on this. That's what we're fighting to take down these child sex trafficking rat lines. The government. Our own government. Oh, before we end, I want you to talk about when your shows are on live every day on VK and Facebook.
So since I get banned from Facebook a lot, I have just done 2 recent live streams on there. I do it either Saturday or Sunday. I don't have a definite date for Facebook or time. But then on VK, every weekday, I am on from noon to 1 o'clock Eastern time, New York time, and try and cover all the key news items. I don't cover everything.
Great job. Please, listeners, tune in to Trisha's show. She does a great job on up-to-date news every day. Excellent. And you cover a lot of world news, too. Here we mostly stick to the child sex trafficking scandals, but you cover a lot of world news on there, too. It's very important, but, it all gets shadowed out by this stuff that we have to cover.
Right. Well, and the thing is, it's all tied together. I mean, we wouldn't have all of these geopolitical issues if there weren't this child sex trafficking network in place in order to blackmail and exploit officials in order to make all that violence happen, as just occurred in Bolivia with the U.S. Backed coup there, where they literally have just stolen all of the gold and cash from Bolivia, installing this junta.
Tell us about that. Yeah, what did they do now?
So there were several generals and others in the Bolivian military and police ranks who apparently had been trained at Fort Benning here in the United States, specifically to carry out a coup d'etat in Bolivia. These generals and police chiefs were paid bribes with American tax dollars in order to betray the Bolivian government, and were spirited out of the country immediately after the coup began. That's how much these people care about Bolivia. So they're here in the United States now. Well, there were all these allegations in the smear campaign against Morales, who had just won a 4th term. There was separate analyses of the vote count that showed no evidence of fraud whatsoever, and that not only was his win possible but probable. One of the things that was pointed out in making the accusations was that the vote count stopped at one point, and then at that point his lead was by about 7 percentage points, and then when they finished counting the last 15% of the votes and gave the final tallies, his lead had expanded to more than 10%, which means there doesn't have to be another round of voting. He handily won the election. There was no, it was not even close. Well, there were allegations that there was something, there was manipulation during that period when the last 15% of the votes were counted, except there actually was none. There's been no evidence whatsoever to support those allegations. So this government is not legitimate. It was put in place by the U.S., and the Bolivian legislature rejected her as interim president. So fingers crossed.
Well, thanks, Trish, for giving us that update on that. So,
Sure.
we will see you next week, people. Have a good
Thanks
week.
again.
Yep.
You too.
Bye.
I feel so